where we take complex fields of study and, well, we give you the fast track to the essential knowledge. Today, we are opening up a really practical playbook. We're moving past the grammar rules you learned in school and diving straight into the actual conversational architecture you need to really thrive in daily English life.
This is a deep dive into functional communication. I mean, the sources we're looking at, they provide this incredibly pragmatic guide. It's all about the necessary language structures and, just as importantly, the social codes that go with them.
The politeness.
The politeness, exactly. That's what defines a confident and natural interaction, whether you're in a shop or just, talking to a friend.
And we really are talking about real-world use here. Things like ordering food, navigating a city, or even just trying to politely say no to an invitation.
Yeah.
Our mission today is pretty clear. We want to shortcut that anxiety cycle. I think if you can understand the handful of structures that underpin, maybe 90% of daily dialogue, you stop feeling so overwhelmed.
And you start operating with confidence.
Exactly.
And that's the key distinction, right? We're not aiming for you to just memorize a bunch of phrases by rote. We're actually dissecting the structure and the tone. That's what makes the interaction feel natural.
Okay, so if you understand why English favors a more indirect way of speaking in a cafe,
then you can apply that same principle when you're making, say, a formal request at work. This kind of structural understanding is the true accelerator for fluency. It's not about the number of words you know.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. I want to start with maybe the most universal daily interaction in the world: ordering food or a drink, a coffee. This context, I think, it perfectly introduces that foundational tension between being clear and being courteous.
It's the perfect laboratory for polite English. It really is. I mean, if you translate your needs directly from a language that's, very direct, say German or Russian, you might just walk up to the counter and state, "I want one coffee."
And look, the person behind the counter will absolutely understand you. They'll get you the coffee. But that phrasing, "I want coffee," it often lands a little too strong in an English service environment, doesn't it?
It can. It really can. It can sound like a demand, not a request.
So what's the immediate architectural fix? What do our sources emphasize is the right way to do it?
The fix is all about linguistic softening.
Yeah.
We pivot away from that direct statement of desire, "I want."
Yeah.
And we move towards structures that either present the request as a possibility or frame it more as a preference.
Okay.
So the two essential phrases here are, "Can I have a coffee, please?" Which is great. Or the probably the most common and preferred structure, "I would like a coffee, please."
That slight adjustment is everything, isn't it? But let's spend a moment on the genius of "I would like." Why is that specific phrase so much smoother than "I want"? What's actually happening there?
It's all about the conditional tense. When you use "I would like," you are employing a modal verb structure that literally presents the statement in a hypothetical or conditional mood. So it transforms the whole interaction from a direct command, "Give me X," into this really respectful inquiry. It's like you're saying, if it is possible and, if it's convenient for you, this is what I would prefer. It minimizes the perceived imposition on the worker.
That's fascinating. So it's not just a polite word choice. It's a grammatical acknowledgement that the transaction requires the worker's effort, and you are requesting that effort, not demanding it.
Yes, that's
a huge insight, especially for listeners, whose native language might value directness as a sign of efficiency.
Exactly. In many cultures, efficiency is politeness. If you get straight to the point, you save everyone time. But in English, particularly service English, that indirectness often signals social awareness, and that is what's really valued. "I would like" is your absolute foundational tool. It works everywhere.
I do sometimes hear people in really casual places, maybe a local spot they go to all the time, just say something like, "I'll take the usual," or "take a large latte." I'll take acceptable. Or is that maybe too casual for a learner who's just building confidence?
That is an excellent, excellent question, because it gets right to the heart of all this variation. "I'll take" is definitely common, but you're right, it's informal shorthand.
Okay.
It implies a quick decision has already been made, and it often happens when you're pointing at something on the menu or the choice is just immediate. For a learner, mastering "I would like" first gives you this universal applicability.
So it's safer.
It's much safer. "I'll take" is kind of the shortcut you use once you're comfortable. I'd say stick to "I would like" to guarantee politeness across, pretty much all contexts.
Understood. So once that foundational request is made, I would like a medium hot chocolate, please. The dialogue almost always follows this highly predictable, really rapid-fire structure.
Yes, the short dialogue kicks in immediately.
Yeah.
The employee has to figure out the consumption logistics, and the standard question is this ultimate abbreviation, for here or to go.
That phrase is a lesson in practical efficiency all by itself. Can you just break down that binary choice for our listener?
Sure. For here simply means you intend to consume the item on the premises. You're going to sit at a table. To go means you are taking the item with you, usually because you're in transit, you're heading to work, or just continuing your walk.
And what's great is that the response is equally minimalist. You don't need a long sentence.
Precisely. You do not need to say, I am planning on taking it with me to the office. The required response is just, to go, please, or for here, thank you.
So the brevity in that moment is actually another form of courtesy.
It is. You're showing you understand the procedure, you respect the time of the other people in the line, and you provide the minimal viable information required for the transaction to proceed. These standardized brief responses are just critical for managing the speed of daily interactions.
So if we pull this whole first section together, the core insight is that linguistic softening, using the conditional would like, is basically non-negotiable for polite commerce. But once that request is acknowledged, efficiency and brevity rule.
Right, as shown by the whole for here or to go exchange.
That's the blueprint then. A polite approach, and then an efficient follow-up.
That's it. You've got it.
Okay, let's move on from the quick, predictable transaction of a cafe and go into a slightly more complex.
Yeah, it tells the other person, I recognize you are occupied, but I need a moment of your time. It creates this crucial social buffer before you even state your question. If you just dive straight in with where are the blue shirts, you risk coming across as abrupt or demanding.
I think the key here is that your tone of voice matters hugely. If you say, excuse me, with a lot of urgency, it implies danger or an emergency.
Oh, for sure.
But if you say, excuse me, sort of softly, while maybe waiting patiently for eye contact, it conveys a respectful need for assistance.
That's absolutely right. The tone calibrates the urgency of the interruption. In a shop, the tone should be neutral and almost permission-seeking. It's an acknowledgement of their existing focus.
Okay, so we've got their attention using the correct interrupt protocol. Now we need to find something specific. Maybe a jacket you're holding, but you need a size that isn't on the rack, or a color you saw online but can't find in the store.
We turn now to the core search structure. In this structure, it has to be concise and flexible. The essential template provided by our sources is, do you have this in a size medium, or do you have this in blue?
That template, do you have this in, is incredibly efficient because it just isolates the one variable you need for the inventory, check size, color, material, whatever it is.
It covers all the bases. You're holding the item so they know what you want. You are just asking for the specific variant that you need. That phrase is the key to unlocking their assistance.
Are there other ways to say it?
Sure. You might also hear or use something like, are these available in a size 10? Which is a slight variation, but the function is exactly the same.
Yeah.
An inquiry about specific inventory.
Okay, so let's imagine the shop assistant is helpful. They find the item for you. The next step in this little shopping choreography is confirming the fit before you actually buy it.
Yes, the logistics of the try-on conversation. You are now holding the item, and you need access to that private area for, checking it out. The essential phrase you need here is, where is the fitting room?
And listeners should absolutely know the regional alternative, which is completely standard in many places. Changing room.
Yes.
Understanding both terms prevents any of that momentary confusion if the assistant uses the one you're not used to.
And to delve into the logistics a bit more, what if the store is really busy? We should probably also know how to ask about practical limitations. A natural follow-up might be, is there a limit on how many items I can take in?
Oh, that's a good one.
This shows you're aware of the store rules, and it maintains that respectful interaction structure we keep talking about.
That's a great example of applying that foundational politeness to a more detailed logistical question. You're asking for clarity on the rules. You're not demanding an exception for yourself.
Exactly.
So the three-step dance for retail success is polite interruption, excuse me.
Followed by the inventory check, do you have this in X?
And then the logistics check, where is the fitting room?
Master that routine, and shopping becomes seamless. You move from being the tentative, maybe awkward customer to the efficient, respectful consumer.
Okay, so we are now leaving the indoor environments and taking our conversational structures out onto the street. This is where anxiety often peaks, right? Because you're imposing on a total stranger who is usually in a hurry because you are lost.
The stakes feel higher. Definitely.
Right.
You are dependent on the kindness and the knowledge of a person whose schedule you are, for all intents and purposes, disrupting.
Which is why we have to immediately revisit that universal opener.
It has to be, again, it serves as the only acceptable opening for addressing a stranger on the street, especially when you need their time and attention.
I'd argue it's even more vital here than in a store.
I agree. On the street, people are often, they're engrossed in their phones, they're rushing, they might be wearing headphones, has to cut through all of that without sounding aggressive. You're signaling that your need is temporary and legitimate.
So once you've made that connection, you need to ask the functional question. You're looking for something, but typically you want the closest solution to your immediate problem.
Which leads us to the structure. Where is the nearest location? That phrase is a logistical marvel. You don't just ask, where is a post office? You ask, where is the nearest post office?
Right. By using nearest, you're ensuring the answer is immediately relevant and actionable. You might not care about the big, historic main library. You care about the branch you can walk to in 5 minutes.
So examples would be, where is the nearest bank? Or where's the nearest subway station?
And what's interesting here is that once the person agrees to help, the social contract kind of dictates that the response has to be delivered quickly and concisely. They're not going to give you an elaborate speech.
No, they will give you the minimal, viable set of instructions.
So this is where listeners need to immediately grasp the highly utilized spatial vocabulary. Let's break down the expected immediate response phrases they're likely to hear.
Okay, first, forward movement. Go straight. Simple. It means continue walking in the direction you're already going. Second, the necessary directional shifts. Turn left and turn right. These are non-negotiables. You have to know these.
And then the key landmark identification phrases that signal you're close, that you're at the end point.
The most common and essential is, it is on the corner. This means the destination is located precisely at the intersection where two streets meet. It's usually a highly visible spot.
You might also hear something like, it's across the street from the cinema, or it's next to the blue building.
Right, using existing landmarks as reference points.
Another thing they might say is, keep going until you hit the third stoplight. That introduces a slightly more complex but still common navigational data point counting traffic lights or blocks.
Precisely. And the tone of these answers will often be quite terse. It's important not to mistake that terseness for rudeness. It's efficiency.
Right.
The person is giving you the information you requested and then returning to their life. The quickness of the delivery is part of the social norm in this type of brief transactional interaction.
I can imagine a scenario where the person gives me the directions, go straight, turn right at the third corner, and I realize that, well, that sounds like a very long walk. The interaction isn't really complete until I can gauge the effort required.
And that brings us to the necessary practical follow-up. This is what turns a simple location inquiry into a real logistical decision. You have to ask, is it far?
That 3-word question is a pivot point. If they say, yes, quite far, I immediately know I need to change my plan. Look for a bus, use a rideshare app, find the subway.
But if they say, no, just a couple of blocks, then I know I can walk.
It's the ultimate efficiency metric. The answer determines your mode of transport. Knowing this structure means you are not just getting directions, you are performing an efficient logistical assessment, all contained within a single brief interaction.
Build on, and some functional vocabulary.
We've mastered the language of commerce and logistics. Now let's move into the warmer, fuzzier realm of social dynamics, extending and managing invitations and plans. The language shifts here from that strict transactional politeness to more friendly, engaging language.
This is where we show we're interested in developing a personal relationship, not just completing a task. The invitation structure needs to be welcoming, but still respectful of the other person's time and their agency.
So for casual settings, if you know the person well, you can be pretty direct. Do you want to see a movie on Friday? Or...
want to grab a coffee later?
Right. That works perfectly for established friends. However, notice how easily we can revert back to that reliable safety net of politeness we learned in the cafe.
Ah, yes. If you want to be slightly more polished, or maybe the relationship is newer or a bit more formal, we use would like to again.
It's the universal polite invitation structure. Would you like to have dinner next week? Or would you like to go to the park this afternoon?
It just demonstrates the phenomenal versatility of I would you like to. It maintains that same politeness across ordering, requesting, and now inviting. It makes the invitation feel less like a firm expectation.
And more like a gentle suggestion.
A gentle, appealing suggestion. It conveys respect for their choice and their schedule.
So the moment of truth comes when they respond. If they accept, the response shouldn't just be a flat, okay. It needs to reflect some enthusiasm to match the friendly tone of the invitation.
Absolutely. The friendly, positive response that our sources highlight is key. That sounds great.
Simple but effective.
That phrase is fantastic because it signals immediate acceptance and positive emotion. It's warm, it's confirming, and it generates good social energy for the plan you're making.
But inevitably, we reach the thornier problem, the art of declining an invitation without causing offense or, damaging the relationship. Saying a flat declarative no feels incredibly rude in English social contexts.
It's so abrupt.
It is, and it leaves the other person feeling rejected.
This is a point of frequent anxiety for language learners. That rejection has to be softened. Linguistically, we use what are often called hedge phrases and a very clear justifying structure.
Okay, let's detail that necessary structure for refusal. It has to contain, 3 components to be socially acceptable?
That's right. First, the softener or the apology, I'm sorry. Second, the concrete refusal, I can't. And third, this is the critical part, the justification. A brief external reason. For example, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to work that night.
That small external reason is the social lubricant. It shifts the blame from the person, you are not rejecting them, to the circumstance, like work or a prior commitment. What if the honest reason is just that I'm tired? Can I use that?
Absolutely. And in a friendly context, honesty is valued if it's delivered politely. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm afraid I'm just exhausted this week. That structure still softens the blow. It shows you've considered the offer, but the circumstance prevents it.
And often in these refusal scenarios, we use additional hedge phrases too, right? Things like, I wish I could make it, or maybe another time.
Those are essential additions. I wish I could, or I'm sorry, I have too much going on, but maybe next week. These phrases indicate a genuine desire to participate while confirming that the barrier is external.
So you're confirming the relationship even while you're denying the request.
That's the perfect way to put it.
I remember once, early in my career, I got an invitation from a colleague I barely knew, and I just replied, no thanks, too busy.
Ooh.
It was accurate, but the colleague seemed deeply offended for weeks. And looking back, I skipped the apology and the softening hedge, which made the refusal sound so unnecessarily harsh.
That is exactly the cultural gap we're trying to bridge.
Yeah.
The abrupt no feels dismissive of the effort it took for them to invite you. By saying, I'm sorry, I can't, and adding that small reason, you respect their effort and you preserve the professional or social connection.
The language of social plans gives us practice and flexibility. Now, let's apply these structures to a high anxiety scenario. Formal, necessary phone conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, this involves scheduling appointments with professionals like doctors, dentists, or, financial services.
The phone call adds that extra layer of nervousness because we lose all the visual cues. We can't read their facial expressions or their body language. But the good news is formal phone calls revert instantly back to our safest, most professional language structures.
Which means
we use I would like immediately. The moment the receptionist answers, you anchor yourself to that reliability. The structure is, hello, I would like to make an appointment.
This phrase is like your safety net against anxiety. It communicates your intention clearly, professionally, and politely. It links the cafe usage and the invitation usage into this higher stakes formal setting. The consistency of this one phrase is, it's really remarkable.
It truly is. Once you've stated your purpose, the conversation moves directly to the logistics of scheduling. You need to inquire about available times.
And here we need some specific professional vocabulary. We don't ask, do you have free time on Tuesday?
No, the specific scheduling inquiry is, do you have any openings on Tuesday? Or maybe, do you have any availability next week?
Let's make sure we define openings really clearly for the listener. In this professional context, openings just means available slots or free time. It's the standard anticipated terminology that the professional office uses every single day.
Using openings demonstrates that you're familiar with the professional language, which helps speed up the interaction and reduces the chance of misunderstanding. Now, let's say they offer you a time. We have something at 11 a.m. on Tuesday.
What if that time doesn't work for me? I don't want to just say no.
Right. You apply the same softening principle we use for social plans, but maybe with a little more formality. You'd say, I'm afraid 11 a.m. doesn't work for me. Do you have anything later in the afternoon?
So you refuse the time slot gently and immediately offer a counterproposal.
Exactly. You avoid a flat rejection by maintaining the collaborative spirit of the scheduling process.
Beyond scheduling specific appointments, there are other crucial practical timing questions for any business you might interact with, whether it's a dry cleaner or a pharmacy.
These are inquiries about the operating schedule. You need to know when you can physically go there. The two main phrases are, what are your opening hours for the start of the day? And the most pressing closure question, what time do you close?
That closure question is fundamentally important to managing daily life. If you're rushing to buy something essential, like the example of the cookies we saw in the source material, or maybe a vital prescription, you need that firm cutoff time. Knowing how to ask, what time do you close, just gives you control over your end-of-day planning.
Mastering these few structural phrases, I would like, openings, and the timing questions. It eliminates the stress of formal interaction and ensures you can conduct these necessary administrative tasks with competence and confidence over the phone.
We've covered the high stakes, the transactional, and the formal. Now let's talk about the bedrock of social interaction, small talk. This is the low-stakes, frequent, everyday conversation you have with a neighbor, a coworker in the break room, or the checkout clerk.
Small talk is the social lubricant. Its function isn't primarily to convey information, but to build rapport, signal friendliness, and ease momentary silence. And it needs a specific, almost ritualistic structure to work correctly.
It usually starts with a slightly more casual version of the standard greeting. Well, how are you is fine. You often hear, how are you doing?
That phrase, how are you doing, adds a really friendly, casual flavor. And the key for the listener is to understand that this is almost always a social token, not a request for a detailed diagnosis of your emotional state.
That's such a critical cultural insight. If someone asks, how are you doing, they're usually looking for a one-sentence positive response, not a 30-minute description of your medical history or your personal problem.
Exactly. The appropriate standard response structure is essential for keeping the interaction light and flowing. And it must contain two parts.
First, the positive confirmation. I'm good, thanks.
And second, the immediate return question. And you? Or how about you?
That return question is the entire foundation of the small talk architecture. It confirms you are well, it expresses gratitude, and then, critically, it immediately passes the conversational baton back, maintaining the balance and the shared responsibility for the interaction.
If you just say, I'm good, thanks, and then stare at them,
awkward.
The conversation abruptly dies, and you leave the other person with the awkward task of initiating the next topic. This brings us to the ultimate safe topic for small talk.
Especially on a Monday morning, nothing beats the weekend recap.
How was your weekend? Is the universal, friendly opening question. It's neutral, it's universally relevant, and it shows interest without being intrusive.
And the answers, again, should follow that principle of brevity and positive framing. You don't need to summarize every hour. Simple answers are enough. It was great. It was relaxing.
Or maybe a one-line activity description. I went hiking. Or I saw my sister.
And if you provide a detail like, I saw a movie, the other person then has the social option to ask a brief follow-up, oh, what did you see? But the structure is designed to stay short.
It is.
And we return to the most important element, which our source material brilliantly calls the ping pong of conversation.
If you imagine a ping pong game, the first person serves the ball. How was your weekend? The second person returns the serve. It was relaxing, thanks. But for the game to continue, the second person must hit the ball back over the net.
If they fail to ask, how about yours? Or, and what did you do? The conversation just dies. It's a shared social contract.
It is. And failure to return the question makes the speaker seem, well, self-absorbed or uninterested or just socially awkward, even their English vocabulary is perfect.
This failure state is where the stress comes from. The learner masters the response part, but forgets the crucial return question, and it just leaves this uncomfortable silence.
The solution is to integrate the return question and you, or how about you, as part of the single indivisible response phrase.
So if someone asks, how are you doing? You train yourself to immediately deploy the full structural volley. I'm good, thanks, and you? It becomes one unit.
Master that rhythm and small talk flows naturally.
So we have completed a pretty comprehensive architectural review of real-world English communication. We dissected 6 foundational areas: the polite cafe transaction,
the logistical shopping query, street navigation, social planning,
formal phone appointments, and the dynamic of small talk.
We've established that the power of the conditional tense in I would like is paramount.
Yeah.
is the magic key for any interruption.
And that healthy social dynamics rely on that ping-pong structure, just ensuring the conversation keeps moving forward. I feel like we covered an enormous amount of practical, high-utility language.
And we have to reiterate the freeing principle that was emphasized throughout our sources. The most important thing for you, the learner, is to try.
Right.
While we champion these polite structures, if anxiety takes over, you say, I want coffee, or no, I can't, people will understand. Communicating the message is the baseline victory.
That baseline competence should fuel confidence. But the deeper principle, as you've pointed out, is that intentional practice of the polite phrases, the conditional tense, the hedge phrases for refusal, that naturally builds more robust confidence.
Because you sound smoother.
You sound smoother and more aligned with the cultural expectation.
And when you sound natural, the anxiety just fades away. The structures we define, they're not just rules, they're the scaffolding you use to build effortless communication.
Absolutely. It's about being smooth and efficient, not just about being correct.
So we want to leave you with one final thought, a challenge that's drawn directly from the practical advice we found in our source material. This is how you can bridge the gap between passively listening to this and actively acquiring the skill.
We saw the suggestion to practice asking a stranger for directions, even if you are not lost. This turns a high-stakes moment into a low-stakes exercise. You already know the structure. Excuse me, where is the nearest post office?
This raises the challenge for you, the listener. What other daily conversation structure could you deliberately practice today, purely for the sake of repetition and confidence building, so you can integrate it into your daily routine?
Could you practice refusing an imaginary, complex invitation to a difficult event using the full softening structure? I'm so sorry, I wish I could, but I already have to work that evening.
Or could you try ordering an imaginary meal using 3 different applications of I would like?
Take the stress out of the real interaction by performing a dry run. The goal is to make the sophisticated structures we discussed, the I would like and the ping pong, return into automatic reflexes.
The more you practice that back and forth in a low-stakes environment, the easier the actual game becomes.
That is all the time we have for this deep dive into essential language structures. We sincerely hope you feel ready to step into your next real-world conversation with structural mastery and some genuine confidence.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.